This is Luke Trill, the director of polling firm More in Common. I've used many of their polls before. They seem pretty good, better than average, actually. And he's tweeted this. We are just in the car back from focus groups this weekend in Beverly, Hull, Scunthorpe and Peterborough. And without a doubt, the disillusionment was the worst I've heard. In every group, it was anger, despondency or misery about the state of Britain that doesn't feel sustainable. And my God, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And some of the quotes that he's posting in this thread from people who are just totally normal people, part of the system, who are just completely like, well, this is screwed. Everything about this is just unsustainable, unsalvageable, and it is the system itself that is a problem. I know because I work in it. It's just crazy, absolutely crazy. So we've got a quote from here. Chelsea, social worker in Hull. I think the world is effed up and I feel sorry for the kids growing up in it. That's where we're at. I'm just so sorry, says this social worker, that you live in such a wretched world. I'm sorry that this is the world we've given to you, says a social worker. It's like, oh God, man. Like, okay, let's carry on. Views of politicians went beyond healthy cynicism, ranging from them not getting it to being useless to being actively corrupt. This wasn't a partisan thing. It applied to everyone. Tory, Labour, Lib Dem, Reform, and being part of the political class was more telling than party. And this from Gary, sales manager in Bourne, is just the most incredible quote I've ever seen. It's just amazing. Right? I don't mean to laugh at this. You're gonna be like, holy shit. I've actually given up on the system, if I'm being totally open and honest with you. Yeah, nothing really changes ever. You go from one bunch of lying so-and-sos to the next lot, and it would seem that even locally, it's almost like, this is going to sound really extreme, but the country almost needs a coup d'etat, and it needs somebody to almost come in and say, right, this is what we're doing, and you will conform. There's no proper leadership by anyone. Nobody likes any of the candidates. Nobody really trusts any of them. It's almost like we need the king to just say, right, I'm in charge, and this is what we're doing. What a statement. Gary, sales manager, Bourne. What this country needs is a coup d'etat. Like, geez, we need a new Oliver Cromwell. Just come in, clear out the parliament, and take executive control, says Gary, a sales manager from Bourne. It's just, this is going to sound extreme, but we are in need of a coup, right? I don't mean to laugh, but it's just like, 10 years ago, this would never have been the sort of thing people would have said. Like, regular people would never have been like, I just want the king to dissolve parliament and take executive control of the country and sort everything out. That's all I want. You know, I just want a dictator, said Gary, sales manager from Bourne. It's just, I mean, like I said, I don't mean to laugh, but it's just like, okay. And I just want to be very clear. I am very committed to the democratic process. YouTube. I am completely 100% committed to the democratic process. We can change this by voting, and I don't care what the people in the comments say. Remember that, chaps. Anyway, he carries on. The demand for change was palpable, but there was a lack of faith that it was going to happen. Again, not limited to one party, but instead there was a sense that politicians just weren't up to it, weren't willing to take on vested interest. From potholes to the NHS, it was all going wrong. So Richard, a photographer from Driffield, said, hard decisions aren't allowed to be made. Nobody's brave enough to take them. Moreover, like, it would require a total restructuring, as Liz Truss found out when she was briefly the Prime Minister for 43 days or whatever it is. The quangocracy needs to die. All of them. Every single one of them. They just need to be fired. The entire concept of a quango, a quasi-governmental organisation, needs to just be scrapped. They're unaccountable. We didn't elect them. They shouldn't be there. And Tony Blair should be treated as a traitor for creating them. Because what he has done is stolen decision-making power out of the hands of our elected representatives, which is why we had them in the first place. If we don't have elected representatives doing anything, why do we even have these politicians? And that's one of the things that a lot of people are complaining about. The politicians don't get anything done. And I imagine it's because there are a series of institutional barriers that prevent the politicians from actually enacting the agenda that the people elected them to enact. And so, well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a hard decision. And you're right, no one's brave enough to take them. But moreover, most people don't want to take them. It's the Conservatives that aren't brave enough to take them. Conservatives who are like, well, I guess we're trapped in the Blairite paradigm forever, or we're just stuck like this for eternity. Whereas the Labour Party want this. The Labour Party see this as a good thing. And I mean, I doubt Nigel Farage is competent enough to get the job done. He's not surrounded by good people. He doesn't know who's going to have in a cabinet. And anyone who is good, he kicks to the floor and beats mercilessly, metaphorically speaking, because he's afraid of anyone challenging him and taking over. As you saw from the very first thing he said about Rupert Lowe's criticism was he's trying to take control of the party. No, he wasn't. He was just saying what he thought. But anyway, moving on. While some people were still willing to give the government the benefit of the doubt and time, most were disappointed or angry at the pace of change. But more than that, there was a common view of no difference between Labour and the last Conservative government. Well, why would there be? They are the same. In fact, Labour is more right-wing than the Conservatives. And what I love from Sam Nurse Scunthorpe's opinion here is that she's clearly not like a hyper-political person, but she's just seen the Prime Minister talking, and this is the impression she's got of him. And I think she's correct in this. The way Starmer speaks, the way he comes across when he's interviewed, the way he speaks about the winter fuel allowance, I think he's a disgrace. I think he's ruthless. Now, we've seen Starmer's ruthlessness in the way that he purged the Corbynite faction out of the Labour Party when he took control of it. He was absolutely, kicking Corbyn out. He tried to kick Diane Abbott out. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got no love for Corbyn and Diane Abbott, but they've been in the Labour Party for like 40 years or something. I'm for him to go, no, just get out, Corbyn. Just get out. I don't know what the difference between them and the Tories is, to be honest with you. There is no difference. The difference is Labour are the party of we say we would like diversity, and the Tories are the part of we will do what Labour tell us to do, and so we will put an immigrant in charge. That's the difference. So the Labour are the theoretical wing of the Uni Party, and the Tories are the executive wing of the Uni Party. We need mass immigration. The Tories are like, yeah, okay, here's millions a year. So, what? Yeah, 3.5 million or whatever in the Boris wave. Enjoy that. Enjoy the diversity, because that's what the Labour Party asked for. So that's what the Conservative Party deliver. That's how this system works. But this combined with a sense the government were targeting the wrong people, the vulnerable, particularly on disability benefits, while most wanted to make sure benefits only go to those who deserve it. Most also had someone they knew who needed it and they worried for them. They're targeting the wrong people, pensioners, the disabled. It seems the groups that can't fight back, says Chris, mechanic from Hull. Disabled people aren't exactly a massive constituency in the UK, and they're not a conscious constituency, and pensioners vote Conservative, so why would the Labour Party care about them? Luke says, I've mentioned this before, but the consequence of this has definitely been to make the public more zero-sum and amplified frustration in other areas. This particularly expressed itself when it came to small boats and channel crossings. Channel crossings come up in groups fairly often as a source of frustration, but usually after the cost of living in NHS. Yeah, because the cost of living in NHS, these are real, tangible, immediate problems that people have. As in, I need a doctor's appointment, and there are 7.5 million people on the waiting list, which means I've got to wait like a year to get this thing seen to and dealt with. This is a real issue. Or the cost of living is in, I can't really afford to buy food or to heat my house or to do whatever. And it's making life very, very difficult for me. But even then, to say that the channel crossings are still at the forefront of their minds, that's something that's a genuine concern. And it's something that is just so perennially and obviously unfair, right? We shouldn't be paying for these people. They shouldn't be in the country. If you cross the channel, you should just get returned instantly via gunship. Like, it's really not very complicated. Like, the second you arrive, you're just put in handcuffs, put on a British Navy boat, and taken back to France and just dumped unceremoniously on the fucking beach. Like, you are not coming in, should be the opinion and action of the British government. And it's like, oh, they're human rights laws. Do I look like I care? Find me the law so I can repeal it. Oh, there's another couple of taxes. Repeal them too. Sorry, no, you're not coming in. And you know what? We'll just break the law. And you can't break international law. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're going to do nothing. That's what. Nobody cares when Pakistan deports 2 million Afghans. Nobody cares when the Azerbaijanis deport 300,000 Armenians. Nobody cares when anyone else does this. Why is it we are the people who have to suffer it? Why is it we are the only people on earth who apparently just can't get rid of the illegals who break into our country? Everyone else does it. Everyone else does it. India's like, right, Pakistanis, we might be going to war with Pakistan, just get out of the country. You've got 48 hours. We can't, we've got to put them up in the hotels. No, repeal it. Repeal any laws. Repeal all of it that stops us from just getting rid of these fucking grifters. Anyway, so I'm trying not to swear, but it's really frustrating. So I totally understand where Michael Painter is coming from. The people coming on small boats, they keep saying they're going to stop it, but I don't think they ever will. I don't think either party really wants to stop it. Yeah, it doesn't feel like they do, does it? Doesn't feel like they goddamn well do. And I tell you what, Michael, I feel your stress, man. I feel the frustration. It's insufferable knowing that I'm paying for these people to live in the UK when they shouldn't be here at all. And let alone the downstream effects of this. Anyway, Luke says, at the end of the group, so I try to ask people what the one thing that the government could do, what is the one thing the government could do to restore their confidence? Normally it's NHS, energy bills, being honest, wages. The number of people in these groups who have picked stopping the boats as their one ask was far higher. So this is something people are really bothered about. And again, I think mostly it's in principle, but still, I mean, there are going to be people who have got like a hotel full of young men from all over the world at the end of their street harassing their children. So it's not like there's no immediate input, an immediate necessary like concern about this. And he says, and I think this is where I think the link with decisions about winter fuel or disability comes in. Across the groups, people made a link between taking money off pensioners and disabled, in their view, housing and support for people arriving on small boats. Well, I mean, Rachel Reeves did point out we've got a £22 billion black hole. We're running out of money, bros. We're going to have to raise taxes and be really careful about where this money is allocated. So screw those pensioners and enjoy this illegal migrants. Pretty crazy. And it looks pretty bad, doesn't it? I mean, it's kind of hard to square. Like, if you're like, yeah, well, I mean, we've just got international obligations. For European Court of Human Rights, some 1999 Asylum Act that Tony Blair brought in. You know, we've got obligations. Do we have obligations to winter fuel allowance? Well, not in the legislation. So screw you. The government has committed to stopping the use of hotels to house asylum seekers, but there's no doubt the policy has been toxic for cohesion. Many of the groups we speak to, including in Hull, the loss of hotels, which are often a local landmark, has been a driver of resentment, as in, you can't use these hotels anymore. Is Nigel Farage set to be the beneficiary of this disillusionment? It seems so in the short term. Lots of people felt that it was better to roll the dice, because it couldn't be any worse than the Tories or Labour. For some, the change mantle has clearly passed to Farage. And Jane, a retired HR director from Cambridgeshire, says he can't make more of a hash of it than is being made at this moment in time. He can't make more of a hash of it than the other parties. And maybe, I mean, it probably is possible that he could. And I don't know whether it's likely or not. I mean, I am worried that Nigel Farage gets in. There is a crisis. He mishandles it completely, or he makes a bunch of decisions that are really bad. And he ends up ruining the right-wing populist movement in Britain for a generation, which I do think is a genuine concern. And so this is one of the reasons why I'm so concerned that Nigel just doesn't have competent people around him. He needs competent people around him, and he is afraid of other people's competence. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not entirely sure if I agree with Jane here, but I completely understand the sentiment. I just want anything other than the current uniparty consensus. Just anything else will do. And so if Farage gets in, okay, great, fine, good luck, Nige. Hope you do something useful. Not sure that you will, but good luck. But here's the thing. While Farage has always been polarising, in these groups, people who should be reform converts were much more sceptical and lumped Farage in with other politicians that they didn't have the faith he would actually change things. Bernadette, customer service in Scunthorpe, says, I like his personality. I agree with some of the things he says and that he promises he would do, but whether or not I would trust him is another issue. And that's a great point, because Nigel is not consistent. And I think that's one of the things that Bernadette, customer service Scunthorpe, is identifying. Because Nigel is always behind the crest of the wave. I mean, look at the deportations thing. It was on Stephen Edgington a few months ago. No, I don't want to do mass deportations. It's not my intention. I don't want that to my name. And suddenly he's like, yeah, I'll have a minister of deportations, because everyone else has said that they're going to do deportations. And he's like, oh, I have to rush to the right flank to say, oh, you know, I'm going to do the most deportations. It's like, nah, you're not really, are you? If this was a solid conviction that you had, then people would believe you. But it's obviously not a solid conviction that you have. You're obviously just trying to, like, you know, serpent-like play the game of politics. But that's really not what the time is calling for. The time is calling for someone who is just like, no, this is what I'm going to do. And basically, we're just on a timer to see how long it takes for you to vote for it. Because at some point, you're going to have to vote for it. So either that or wait for the king to dissolve parliament. And even among others who backed their platform, there were doubts that they were the answer. The same cynicism affecting the other parties seems to be hitting Reform as well as among the more disillusioned. There's little hope Reform are the answer, just a sense that they may as well try. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Because if you had tried not to tack to the centre ground and be a regular politician, maybe Reform would be doing better than 25% of the polls. Debbie, retired from Scunthorpe, says they're not a party. They're not a sensible party, obviously. They have no real history behind them. They don't have the expertise, and you can see it. All the silly infighting, they've made themselves look like fools. Well, nobody forced that to happen. Like, Rupert Lowe didn't really do anything wrong. It's just one day Reform were like, he's a threat. We have to get rid of him. It's like, a threat to what? You're flip-flopping? Because Rupert Lowe seems to be really constant and stable on a particular issue, which is detain and deport. I mean, sorry. Anyway, all in all, a bleak picture. If politics can't be shown to make genuine improvements in people's lives, people will lose faith entirely, switch off and look elsewhere or demand something else, which is why I don't think what I've heard this weekend is sustainable. I think this is why 40% of people just don't bother voting. Like, things are really bad. If we wanted, with 40% of the electorate, you could just pick a party, and that 40%, if they all just voted for that party would win. You need about 35% of the electorate to actually win. And a 40% party would be easily a winner. The one exception to all of this is in Scunthorpe, the praise for the government on stepping in to save the steelworks. Some were frustrated it took so long, but almost everyone felt that it had saved the town. The question is, how can the government or any party show that they can do more like that? And the thing is, you know that this was essentially like a token gesture. It's like, oh, this is the last steelworks in Britain. Well, okay, I guess we'll save it. It's like, I mean, to save Scunthorpe, that's a nice thing, but practically speaking, what's the point? Like, you know, it's the last one. Okay, great, we're going to turn it to a museum piece. And again, I'm not saying it's not important to Scunthorpe. It obviously is. But the point being is, like, it's a little bit late, you know? I'm glad that they've done it. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that they've done it. But, like, it is emblematic of a wider problem in this country, which is just, we're just letting things slip between our fingers. Anyway, what things on top of those mentioned above across the groups brought up? Home building and worries their kids won't be able to buy a home. Well, how could they with mass immigration? Making big corporations pay their fair share of tax, and water companies in particular have become the biggest corporate bugbears repairing high streets. Obviously, lots of the above come out of the polling too. 71% of Brits think things are getting worse. 75% think the system is rigged. I mean, 75%. 3/4 of people are like, well, the system is rigged and therefore democratic politics don't work, which is how you get, like, marketing managers or whatever that guy was saying, look, we just need a coup d'etat. And fewer than 30% of think politicians are up to it. But the focus groups show just how deep and wide-ranging that disillusionment is. And the thing is, I mean, look at this. Even 75% of Green Party members, 91% of Reform, 70% of Lib Dems, 82% of Conservatives. The only people, and even then, it's the largest share of Labour, 36% think they're getting worse, and 32% think they're getting the same. 31% of Labour think things are getting better. That must be the foreign vote or something. Like, are these people blind? What are they seeing around? Like, how is it that, like, they're looking at their grocery bills? How is it they're looking at energy bills and the price of houses and being like, yeah, this is progress, right? Just look at all that red though. Everywhere else, everyone's like, yeah, it's 70% of Lib Dems, 75% of Greens. It's like, yeah, things are going down, bro. This is getting worse, a lot worse, and it's not going to get any better. Anyway, he says, I'm more convinced after these groups that Trump is a real problem for reform among would-be converts. Zelensky meeting still comes up, and closeness to Putin. Also, the image of Trump's chaos/dysfunction are clearly red lines, even for many of the more disillusioned with our status quo. Final point is someone else raised elsewhere. Homelessness and perception it's rising came up a lot, and is one of the most visible signs for people of a society struggling without resource to spare. We can't even give people a roof over their head. I mean, that is just a series of crazy, absolutely crazy statements that, again, just 5 years ago, people wouldn't have said. Like, before COVID, 6 years ago, things just weren't this bad. The Boris wave, the COVID lockdowns, and just, you know, the international upheaval has been really brutal to Britain. Absolutely brutal. And the locked-in political system that the Blairite years created, thank you, Tony Blair, to make it basically impossible for the politicians to enact real change from this agenda has made it so that Gary's sales manager in Bourne is like, it's almost like the country needs a coup d'etat. I wish the king would just come in and take charge. That's pretty crazy, just saying.